Wait. I need your guys' attention. I need everyone's attention. I need your attention. Are you paying attention? Hey, so I am making today's video for me. And I know everyone's thinking, what does that even mean? You have a YouTube channel. We're all watching. How is this video for you? Focus, Hope. Focus. All of me is here. All of me is here. All of me is here. Focus. As a child, on basically all of my report cards, I was told that I needed to wait my turn to talk and stop staring out the window. And surprisingly, I was not diagnosed with ADHD. And I guess it's because it wasn't as obvious as my brother's, because he climbed walls for a hobby. My attention wanted to go to other things, to outside. Now, I, to this day, have to work supremely hard at not interrupting people. It's funny because it's not hard for me as a therapist, but if you are my friend and we're in like a exchange, I will literally have to bite my tongue sometimes. And I do not always do well. And there are friends who do a great job at being like, hey, could you just let me finish talking? And usually I'm like, yeah, fair, that's right. I live in this constant state of just take a breath. Just take a breath. It's funny because I do describe myself as having very little chill, but I think sometimes that means people don't assume that I also can get completely sucked into my couch and my phone. And that's what I want to talk about with attention, because attention is a spell. In my history of being a therapist, every time I work through something with someone that I, in some level, am relating to, I take something that will come out that I will say to them about the subject and then imply it into my life. Now, a lot of my life has been my tool, so there are times where I've already worked through something and I'll sort of guide them in that way. But there's just sometimes that intuitively, I just speak. I don't even always know what's coming out. And then usually when it lands that well, I'm like, ooh, I need to write that down for myself. They don't know that, but the benefit of being a therapist is also the way in which things reflect. If you are taking your personal growth seriously like I do, it's all an opportunity for information gathering. So that being said, I need to do better with where my attention goes. So I'm going to talk about it again. So if attention's a spell, imagine where you're giving it all day long. So I did this exercise all simply based off of, on a whim, something I said to a client. And I was like, you know what? I've never done that homework assignment. I'm caught up in my phone just as much as everyone else is. Let me do the exercise. So the exercise is for a day. It's too much to do long term. I promise it will overstimulate you to be this attentive. But for a day, have a journal with you and just take, or your phone, and just take note. Every time you catch your attention being pulled somewhere else, and then how many times you have to bring your attention back to whatever it is you're trying to put it on. It was so gross. This is just such an uncomfortable homework assignment, but so informative. It is not fun to look at how often your attention is getting grabbed. And I want to remind you that every single time you bring that to your present awareness and you bring your attention back, it is building your attention. In a world where there is literally a million things grabbing for your attention at every given moment, you have got to be so discerning about where you're going to give your attention, because it is a spell. And what that means is where your attention goes, your intention goes. If you're paying attention to other people's lives all day and things you don't want to happen and things you don't like that are happening, and you know, there is a difference between being informed and consumed. And I have noticed within myself and almost everyone I'm talking to, we have this obsession with wanting to be informed and wanting to be making a difference. And there's also this insane shame being placed on people for having any kind of boundary around that. And I would argue to say there is very little practice of simply just being informed, and the vast majority is being consumed. And I mean consumed, completely occupying your every cell, your every minute of your day. That is not being of benefit to any of the world problems. To obsess and want to consume every thought piece. Everyone now has a platform. Everyone can make a video of their opinion, of a think piece. Everyone wants to be a professional of something. And having been somebody who's had a platform and has benefited from having a platform, I want to be very clear that it's not that I think everyone having a platform is inherently bad. I love that there is a voice out there for everyone. However, if you're getting so consumed by wanting to read every single article about this thing you're being informed on and every single thought piece, and you want to get engaged, and you're finding yourself arguing with people on the internet, where are you putting your attention? What are you feeding? I saw something recently about how to get 1 million views on Instagram. And I don't know, I must have just been in one of my little scroll attention deficit moments. And what I heard upset me at my core, because what it said was, hey, this is how you do it. Make a slow walking video and then have text that is a lot of text that they'll have to watch the video a couple times to actually get it all, and make it be a very heated opinion where you know it will trigger people to argue in your comments, because that's going to bring up your views. The way in which that is a reality of our world upsets me greatly. However, I'm in this like radical acceptance phase of life where I'm just like, is what it is. The best thing I can do is to not engage in that. And for a long time, I was very, very vocal on the internet about what I thought about every world event. And what I realized was, not only was it not helping, but that kind of energy under my comments of everyone just arguing back and forth with each other felt so toxic and energy sucking, and like it was casting a spell of more divisiveness and not at all addressing anything, making anything better. Like, it was not contributing to anything. And I realized we have all been given this as what we are supposed to be doing, having these strong opinions and making sure everyone hears them and having something to say about every single thing that happens in the whole world. How do any of us have time to do what actually matters? I do a thing now to help hold myself accountable. And I have a daily check-in about, did I do the practices I want to do? I don't always get to do my writing practice. I don't always get to create art because it depends on my client load for the day. However, what I want to see is, if I didn't have a full caseload, on those days, if I'm not being creative, if I'm not taking advantage of the time that I have been given, which time is a gift, what am I doing then? So I look at my phone hours on those days, and it literally makes me sick. It makes me sick how easy it is to get consumed instead of be creating. And like, I feel terrible whenever I get caught up in those moments. Not just because I feel like I'm betraying myself, but because it doesn't enrich me. It doesn't fill my cup. All it does is drain me. Oftentimes, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated, over tapped out, oversourced, low capacity, I do tend to disassociate. I've been disassociating since I was 5 years old. I am a master at disassociating. I also, fortunately, am a master at bringing myself back to my body. It is a practice that I have been doing my whole life, and I have been teaching extensively. That being said, when I am disassociated, is when I make the poor judgments, the poor choices. I'm not fully in my autonomy, you know? It's like I'm not actually making those choices. It's almost like an autopilot, a pattern. So I believe bringing my attention back to where I am and staying fully in my body is my greatest work I have to do in life, because that's when I live in the most alignment. And that requires me to pay attention to where my attention is and bring it back. So I want to talk about some things that you can do to work on your attention. Could start by doing the assignment I gave to my client and then did personally, and actually monitor where your attention's going for a whole day. The next thing you can do, de-stimulate yourself. I mean by that, sit silently for 5 minutes. Don't touch your phone. Don't talk to anyone. Don't listen to music. Just sit. Pay attention to how many times the urge comes to pick up your phone. Pay attention to how many times your mind just goes bloop, 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 bloop. It's all just building up the neural pathways of, oh, wait, I can take my mind back. We are all capable of rewiring our brains. So it's a very simple 5 minute, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking you to do is 5 minutes of just sitting there, touching nothing. For some people, this is really easy. So if you're one of those, but yet you still want to improve your attention and your awareness and your presence, etc., do 15, do 20. What you'll find about yourself in these 5 minutes is that you'll do something that is your pattern to escape discomfort. Mine, my phone. I will say this 100 times. When somebody is asking you to be careful about where your attention's going and to create more than you consume, they're never asking you to be completely detached from the world and reality and how you can be of impact. They're just asking you not to be consumed. Because a consumed person isn't doing much that is going to make the impact we need. Next thing, when you are trying to be informed, perhaps instead of think pieces, find a source. This is what social media does beautifully. There are so many people in the experience sharing. There are a lot of people who actually understand what's going on the inside. That's the kind of information that is beneficial and helps you be informed. The think pieces, everyone's opinion of it all, the fighting, the arguing, that's being consumed by it. It's not helping you to be of action in any possible way for your life or the life of anyone else being impacted by whatever global event it is you're following. I say this often. Our nervous systems were never meant to know every single world problem. We were never built to be this connected. However, we are this connected, so we have to figure out where does our capacity lie as to this is how much attention I have to give. And if I'm going to have this much, if I'm wasting it, then this is all I end up having to give to be of a difference. See why it matters? So much. It matters so much. I am still a work in progress in this. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm making this for me. I'm still trying to figure out my sweet spot in this. Like, really what I'm being called to do and the times, which I have been being called to do my whole life, is teaching people, how do you live in reality and not collapse under it? How do you still find joy even though there's so much shit, right? Because we live in an and world and you absolutely have to find the delight. You have to find the joy. Tapping into gratitude is my biggest practice. And it's how we survive all of this. And that all comes from your attention. If your attention gets so hyper-focused, as it does, what else are you missing? So when I get really bad anxiety, I kind of get really zoned in to really like what's here. Everything else becomes this weird blur, and I hate it. It makes me almost feel like I'm going to panic. So one of my very first things to do is like touch something on my body, because touch is the quickest way for me to return to my body and not disassociate. Because if I disassociate, it's game over. Like, I gotta be fully in my body to bring me back to presence and calm. And so one of the things I do when I'm so hyper focused is I'll be like, okay, wait, what else do I notice? I'm obviously practicing on my breathing, but I'll be like, okay, there's a painting over there. There's a flower over here. There's a plant. You have to widen your awareness and attention. That hyper-focused, hyper-fixated makes you sometimes spiral, and the best way to break that is to zoom out. Years ago, caregiving days, I made a video online about gratitude and about how much it helps me. And somebody watched the video, was, I guess, met with some resistance by it. They sent me a message and said, I feel like you need to hear this. You look like you don't care that your husband's sick when you talk about being grateful, and it really makes you look like a bad person. And I actually think you're a bad person for talking about something you were grateful for. Your husband's dying. How inconsiderate. I sat for a minute. I was like, I have blind spots. I'm always willing to receive information. But what I teach my clients, because I've learned this myself, is you take what someone says, you sit in it, and you really learn to feel what truth feels like in your body. You have to start differentiating. Is this my truth or their truth? And I knew right away that was their truth. Steve, in his own words, said he had to learn to focus on what he still had and not focus on what ALS was taking from him, or he would have missed out on all the life he still had. So I, of course, was not being selfish. I had plenty to be thankful for. We survived on the kindness of others. I also practice every single day I can get out of my body. No joke. I tell my body, thank you. Thank you for getting me up. Thank you for holding me. And at the end of every day, I thank my body. Thank you for getting me through the day. That is nothing but respect for my husband. Not that I needed to explain myself to that woman, but I did. I had a lot to say back then. That woman was just demonstrating very beautifully the hyper-focused and just how zooming out reminds you there are other things that are happening. And that is why paying attention to where your attention is so important. I feel like we all have had that experience with somebody who has given us so much attention in the conversation. They're fully present. They are so there. I do try to bring that into my therapy sessions. I think oftentimes when I'm with my friends, I end up just, like I want to unbutton my shirt a little. Literally. And so I'm not as aligned. What is the word? I don't know. That was me trying to find words. We are all works in progress. And I am an intentional attention human in progress. Since I've been actually doing some of these practices, I've had a few days where in my journal, I'm like, this is what my life could be like, and it's amazing. And then I do wake up in a couple days and fall right back into the old pattern. Hence why I said I'm a work in progress. However, I do find in all of these practices, I am able to catch myself so quickly now. It is such a gift. I remember reading something about how sometimes there's a shame when you bring your awareness back, when you do that catching. And they were like, there shouldn't be shame because that's a win. Every single time you're like, oh, wait, I don't want to focus on this. I want to be right here. You're winning. And you shouldn't shame yourself, even if you have to do it 100 times a day. Like, you're still bringing yourself back to presence. And that being said, I catch myself more, which therefore means I end up falling less and less into the consumption hole. I'm not perfect, not putting the expectation that I'm ever going to be. But if I can have more days a week than not where I feel like my attention went where I intended it to go, then I will be living a good life. Because I think attention is a spell. And that's creating our realities. And you have a choice. And this is my invitation to monitor your choices. And if you need to make different ones, practice. I'll leave you with this. Something I do before every single client session, whether I have my 9 clients back to back in a day or I just have one client that day, I will always say, all of me is here. All of me is here. I'm calling my attention back. I'm calling my energy back. Calling my awareness back. I'm in my body. All of me is here. Usually my feet are really planted on the ground. And that is something that has worked foolproof in therapy. And now I'm hoping that I can do that before I have conversations with my friends so I can stop interrupting them. I just don't know where my attention just went. So I think I was just trying to figure out there's something else I'm supposed to say. I think that's it. Now pay attention.